Don't change that channel. This is the Allon Exchange with financial advisors Jay and Brittany Hagee of Allon Planning Partners. I am Spike Spangle. Jay and Brittany, what's on your mind
Spike.
this
Hello.
week? How are you? How are you?
Always a lot on our mind, Spike. But today we really want to talk about timing. Timing is kind of everything when it comes to retirement, like when we should retire and things like this. But really just in life in general, we find that timing matters, right?
Absolutely.
Sometimes me and Brittany know when to not have a conversation, right? We have the rule in our house that if we are hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, we should not have a serious conversation because I get hangry. And so timing matters to me.
He is the ultimate hangry. It is hilarious.
I will agree with this. Yeah, because like when I get a little bit too hungry, it's hangry. And like Brittany knows, don't ask me the wrong question when I'm hangry. So I have to make sure I'm eating snacks all the time in between my conversations with folks because I never want to come across as hangry because I know it's a real thing. So timing matters.
Yeah.
Like when we have conversations to when we retire. And so we want to make sure that we're having the right conversation in the right time.
Well, and especially, I mean, I'll just use this as a moment to tag for couples, right? For couples and all the financial conversations that you have to have. You know, when your spouse comes home after a bad day, or maybe if he's lost his job or she's, had a demotion unexpectedly or something crazy has happened, that is not the best time.
Probably not.
To talk about, well, we should have done this, or how are we going to fix this moving forward? Or no, give them a breather. Ensure that you are approaching those topics at the right time, and being strategic will actually help you get a better result on the backside.
Sometimes I do feel that you are also both kind of personal coach advisors along with being financial advisors.
The two intertwined.
But you really do, you definitely, so first of all, solo retirement planning, very, very important. But there's many different ways we go into retirement solo. Maybe our partner's already passed away, we've gone through a divorce, maybe it was by lifestyle and design, maybe you wanted to. Just as important to have a retirement plan. In fact, maybe even more so. But between couples, you like to talk about it because it's really important to be open about the finances. We've got to get onto the same page together, right?
Yeah.
So you really do encourage couples to come in together.
And have open communication about that. And that's why today's important, because the right time always matters, right? And so we always encourage, if you are a couple, have clear communication constantly, especially entering into retirement years, because there's going to be a very jarring season for most folks, is because if I've spent 30 or 40 years with a simple routine, or maybe I've had multiple jobs in those years, but I've always had a routine that I'm going into the office or I'm working from home, whatever it may be, but I haven't had the engagement maybe with my spouse that I'm getting ready to have all day long, right? And so it's not just about that we're on the same financial page, because that is true, but are we on the same emotional page? Because you're going to have a lot of time on your hands, and today that's what we're talking about, time.
When we go to commercial break, I'm going to ask you on the timing of when you popped the question. Apparently you did it right. Good for you, Jay. But I do want to stay on retirement timing today. Has retirement timing changed? Are you looking at, is 65 still reasonable? Can we still use that number? Are we looking more at 66? Are we looking more at 67?
Yeah.
Has the timing moved out?
And it could, because of longevity, right? We could make that argument. I could make the argument like you probably want to look a little bit further out because longevity, especially if your health is good, we're living longer statistically than ever before. But I will say that retirement, I don't like to think of it as an age. I like to think of it as alignment. I like to think of when are all my priorities and my plans in alignment so that I can afford to retire, and realizing that I have the opportunity to retire without the fear of running out of money. And so I don't like to, pinpoint an age and say everyone should retire by 65 or 67 or 70. I like to say, do you have a comprehensive plan put together to give you confidence that you can retire no matter what age you are? Because there's plenty of folks that can retire in their 50s, right? Because they are in alignment to do so. But some folks have to wait until their 70s because their alignment says they have to do so. So it's very individualistic. So the timing to me is not so much about an age, it's about an alignment. A strategy.
If I can even, maybe I should have rolled it back first, even before talking about when do we retire. When is the right time to speak with a retirement advisory firm?
Yesterday.
Yes. But no, I mean, you say to someone, hey, it's best, that window, 63, 64, maybe the 1 year before
Sure.
you're about to retire. But what about all of those investment years that you could have been given guidance on? When do you like to talk? Like as soon as possible?
Yesterday.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the sooner the better, because it's not just, you don't want to just plan the day before, the year before. You want to have a runway to actually take your time and ensure that things like, tax strategy, having years to implement tax strategy for that stage of life makes a difference. If you start sooner on that, you have many more options as to how you can control some of those taxes early on than it does if you start, the year of retirement or the year before. So there's things like that that can actually really help set you up in a better position once you get started. So again, timing is important. And it's also important when you're looking at, your investments and what is happening within the economy, within the markets, when you're actually retiring, and even more important, how you are allocated during those times. How you are allocated, what your dollars are actually invested in at the time of retirement, and what happens in those investments within those first really couple of years can make all the difference. We teach a workshop all throughout the community here, and we talk about this sequence of returns risk. This is a big topic of conversation at these workshops because we want to help folks understand how it really matters, how they're allocated, what they're invested in, and what happens in those early years of retirement.
As they're taking withdrawals.
Yes, because what happens if you are in those early years of retirement, the market takes a dip like we have experienced recently a couple of times, massive within the last couple of years. And so you're taking a dip, but you're also withdrawing from those accounts at the same time. So you're selling low on those investments to be able to take the distributions out. So it's kind of like you're getting a double hit at that moment now, right? And so you want to prevent that if at all possible. So it takes a strategy to ensure that doesn't happen. But then on the flip side, if you look at someone who is actually retires at a time or year where they're experiencing maybe a boost or increase, or growth in that account, man, talk about propelling them into that stage and that phase. Their dollars are absolutely going to last longer when you look at the comparison of those two experiences. And really, it could be the same percentage of loss, that they both in this example have, but the timing of when they experience those losses matter. If you experience the losses on the later side of retirement, in year 15, 16, 17 versus year 1 and 2, big difference in the bottom line of your actual investment.
But
And
you
guys,
don't- yeah.
we
don't wanna
can't
let-
control the markets.
You don't want to let the economy or the
Yeah.
markets tell you when you're able to retire.
Exactly, and we can't control the markets. So what we're saying here is change your allocation strategy when you're early in retirement, because the markets, we can't say, oh yeah, we've got a crystal ball. We know exactly if you're going to take losses in the first 5 years or you're going to get gains.
Sure.
We don't have that luxury. What we can do is say, are you properly positioned for whatever the market does to create income for
That's
you
the key.
for the rest of your life? We often say that the first 5 years of retirement will affect the next 20. Because that is the truth. Like the first 5 years are so important in your retirement accounts. And so that's why the timing of changing your allocation strategy matters. You have to look at going into these distribution years a lot different than when you were not taking withdrawals out of these accounts. And we have to help reallocate you.
That's why it's so important that you can get started right now on your own retirement readiness review. You can call the phone number down on the bottom of the screen. We have folks who are standing by right now who can schedule an appointment for you. If you don't have the time right now, if you know you're about to run out the door, take down that phone number. We can still schedule an appointment even after the program airs. Or you can scan this QR code right now, click on it. It'll take you over to the website, and you can schedule your own time to sit down with Jay and Brittany anytime you want to. But get started right now on your own no-cost retirement readiness review. More with Jay and Brittany Hagee and timing of your retirement right after this.
In the mountains of Guatemala, women are fighting for a better future for themselves, for their children, and for their communities. At dareformore.org, every purchase has a purpose. From handcrafted jewelry, wallets, and vibrant bags to premium coffee, every item tells a story and changes a life. Your support provides education, safe shelter, and business opportunities for women escaping poverty and violence. Together, we're helping them rewrite their story from survival to success. Shop with purpose. Change a life. Visit dareformore.org today and be part of a movement that empowers women and gives hope to the next generation.
Welcome back to the Allon Exchange with Jay and Brittany Hagee. I'm your host, Spike Spangle, talking about timing of retirement. Well, okay, I wish I could pinpoint a year. We realize that's all going to be very individualized. This one's got to be easy. Social Security. When is the best time for folks to take their Social Security?
Yeah, timing matters when you're
it absolutely
filing,
does.
and filing strategy, as we started out talking about, especially for couples, because the goal is to coordinate, right?
That's
to
right.
coordinate those accounts so that you're getting the best bang for your buck when it comes to filing. So here's a story to kind of begin this conversation. I sat down with an individual a few months ago, and they were just turning 62 and beginning to, look at their retirement and look at things and hoping to file. She came in very excited to file. Hey, I'm turning 62. I've already put my paperwork together. Here's what I'm submitting. Well, of course, we began talking and asking questions, and very quickly I learned that she was still working. She was a very robust salary. She had $70,000, $80,000 a year coming in. So what she didn't know was that she would be penalized if she did take Social Security and filed before her full retirement age. There is an income threshold if you make over right around $23,000 a year. If you make more than that and you are filing for Social Security before your full retirement age, you will be penalized. If she would have filed, she would have had to pay the majority of her
Every
Social
bit of it.
Security back to the
right.
Social Security Administration. That's not what you want to do, because she's giving the money back, but then she would also be locking in that lower percentage, right? Because we all know if you file early at 62, you're not getting your full retirement age benefit. Again, timing matters, and looking at how one piece of the puzzle impacts all the others.
So what we're
because it does.
saying is Social Security is not just a monthly check, it's really a strategy.
Yeah.
And that strategy is, how do I get the most out of Social Security? And how do I optimize getting the most? It's not really maximizing, because there's always a maximum you can get, but it is optimizing. And the optimal timing that I take it determines how much I get over my lifetime. And so we help every individual come in. We ask you to go to ssa.gov and fill out the information so that we can see your report and get a clear picture of what your Social Security benefits are. And if you have a spouse, for both of you to have these reports printed off for us, so that we can give you kind of an optimal timing based on your situation, your income needs, what you're actually experiencing for income right now if you're full retirement age, so that we can add in the timing piece and say, when is the right time for you to file? A lot of people come in and it's like, well, right away, right? Shouldn't I just file right away? Well, you just told a story where that wasn't the case. I showed a gentleman the last week at 64. If he would have filed at 64 instead of waiting until 67, there are break-even points, but he would have left $400,000 on the table over his lifetime just by not waiting those 3 years. There is absolutely an optimal time to take Social Security, and you need to have a plan for that.
And this is just one of many questions that, as financial advisors, you take folks through. Right now, on the bottom of our screen here, we've got a quiz that you have put together. Don't worry, it's not a hard one. It's a fun one. Do you like to do puzzles? Do you like to do that with your partner? This is something that gets you started thinking about all of the different pieces that go into planning for a retirement, including the timing of it, timing of Social Security, timing of when you tell the boss, I'm no longer going to be attending those Monday morning Zoom meetings. When do you know if you've made enough and saved enough? Take the quiz. Go to allonquiz.com, where you can scan the QR code and take it right now. Start that conversation with your spouse. Take it to the coffee house. Start talking to your buddies about it. What do you think? Probably can't talk about it at work. I don't know. Maybe you can. Maybe you've got a good manager who realizes that, you know what, it's time for some of the younger talent to come in. But timing of this, here's another question I have for you. How do you know timing when you have enough? We've talked about this a couple of times. Once you start just thinking of money as the goal, I don't think you're ever going to feel like you have enough. So how do you know, through either software or through math, or how many times you've done this with folks, how do you know timing that somebody has saved enough?
It is strategic, right? And so you have to, it's not just always formula based either. We want the quick formula. That's why I love this quiz, is because there's not a failing grade on this quiz.
Right.
You're not going to fail this quiz. All it does is tell you where your starting line is. And all of us have different starting lines, right? All of us have different points that we're at in life. And so this isn't a fail or pass grade. This is, where do I start and how do I get to where I want to be from there? So how do I know I'm going to have enough? That is a loaded question, right? Is because what is enough to you? Like, what are you looking to try to achieve? What are your expenses monthly? What's inflation look like? What's the, how much have you saved in your retirement accounts? How can we utilize every bucket that you have in order to create lasting income? All of those things have to be answered to answer that question, what is enough? There's not a magic number. There's not just a magic feeling that I'm going to one day wake up and say, oh, I feel like I have enough. There is going to be a strategy that's put in place that says, I have the income to produce, based on what I've saved, to produce the lifestyle that I want to live for the rest of my life.
And then one thing we haven't really even talked about when you're considering the timing of these big life changes is the emotional component of it. Sometimes, you know, we've had folks who get to just the point of burnout and just so overloaded with stress, they're just like, it's the time now because I can't imagine another day doing what I'm doing. Or, you know, so exterior forces that cause that emotional desire to say, you know what, I'm putting in my notice, my time is done. But the problem with that is your emotions tell you when you're tired, not when you're ready. You got to look at you got to look at the figures. You got to look at the actual numbers. What is possible with what you have? And the cool part is that we have sat down with so many folks who come in and they're like, man, I just don't think I can retire, but man, I'm at that point where I want to so desperately. I am ready. My emotions are there. I am burnt out. I need a shift. I need a change. And they don't think that they can. We take a look at their picture, we run the numbers, we show them examples, we show them figures and examples of how this can be used over the next 20, 30 years. And they find, wow, I can retire. I do have enough based on my expenses and my lifestyle, taking a look at their starting point and ensuring that they can get to where they want to go. That's the exciting part, is when we're able to sit down with folks and show them, you actually do have enough, and the timing of the emotions and the dollars actually align. That's a win. Doesn't always happen that way. Yeah, those are fun. Those are great because who doesn't want to hear that good news? But sometimes there's a tweak that needs to be made, and maybe that timeline is deferred a year or two with some specific tax implications that can make a big difference. Or maybe it's moved up because they're farther along than they realize. But this is where timing really does matter. And if you implement the right strategies and coordinate these pieces, man, it can be powerful to really set you up on the right foot as you begin that phase.
I wonder on the timing first, because you said there's no grade on the quiz. Or should they read the book first and then take the quiz? Great point. When you call the phone number, we'll give you a complimentary copy of the Allon Approach, Jay and Brittany's book on their retirement planning strategies, about goals-based, about personal-based planning. It's not just about chasing after a numbers goal. What do you want your retirement and your lifestyle to look like? When you call the phone number and set up an appointment time, we'll give you a complimentary copy of the book as well. More with Jay and Brittany Hagee right after this.
Are you actually ready for retirement or just hoping everything works out?
At Allon Planning Partners, we've created a quick and powerful retirement readiness quiz to help you find out. It takes just a few minutes and you'll get a personalized score showing how prepared you are in key areas like income, taxes, investments, healthcare, and legacy planning.
It's free, it's simple, and it could give you the clarity and confidence that you've been missing. Don't leave your future to chance.
Take the quiz today at allonquiz.com and get a clear picture of where you stand and where you need to go.
Are you retirement ready?
We know you have money questions. Questions about your investments, about taxes, our economy, Social Security, mutual funds, ETFs, and so much more.
So we want to provide you with answers. We've created a YouTube channel, a weekly podcast, educational videos, and many resources designed just for you. At Allon Planning Partners, it's our mission to invest in you, and this is part of how we do that.
Click the link below to watch and subscribe today.
Welcome back to the Allon Exchange with Jay and Brittany Hagee of Allon Planning Partners. They are the founders. They are financial advisors themselves. Today we are doing some retirement timing questions and trying to figure out, can we still do it around 65, 66, 67? We just talked about Social Security timing. I think maybe I'd also like to talk a little bit about long-term care timing and when do we do that, because I have a feeling it's one of those subjects that's kicked down the road for a while, but isn't it easier to get better tools the earlier you start thinking about long-term care?
Absolutely. And so before I say anything about long-term care, let me add it into healthcare, is because healthcare as a whole, folks that want to retire before 65, Medicare starts at 65, no exceptions. So there is a timing issue there. If I'm 62 and say I'm retiring, well, you have health care to figure out between 62 and 65, a little bit more than those who are retiring after 65. So we have to make sure that the timing is right, that we can cover those extra health care costs between the time you retire and the time Medicare actually kicks in. And then afterwards, the supplement plans or the Medicare Advantage plans, whatever it may be that you're going to utilize, that you have the budget for that as well. But that timing matters. The long-term care timing, first off, you need to have conversations around this. I feel like not enough people have conversations around long-term care because it is one of the biggest blind side to our retirement plans that exist, is because we've got this thing figured out. We've got income plans. We're feeling like, hey, if I live to 95, I'm not going to run out of money, but I haven't included what happens if. And so we stress test every portfolio and every plan that we put together. But the what if of long-term care, it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars that would be added on to your yearly budget at that point. And so there are tools in place that aren't just the old school long-term care insurance that if I pay these high premiums and I don't use it for long-term care, I lose all the premiums. We actually have insurance products now that are available that you can actually get pre-advanced a death benefit if you meet all the requirements of not fitting or not carrying out the active daily living assignments. So you can still pay a premium, but if you don't use the money for long-term care, your heirs, your estates, if you pass away, still get it as a death benefit, which is tax-free to them. There are better tools like that now that we can talk about with long-term care, but timing matters in that is because the sooner that you get long-term care coverage that way, the cheaper it's going to be. The longer you wait, the more you're going to pay. And so we need to have earlier conversations in your 50s, in your 40s, as early as we can, about this long-term care monster that's going to creep up on all of us that we have to cover.
Well, we had a client recently who was really eager to retire at 63. They were, just moving towards that. And then we ran the numbers. We looked at the healthcare cost and we realized, man, this is going to be a $50,000 expense over these next 2 years, looking at them and their spouse. That caused them to delay their timeline here because they realized, whoa, that's more than I want to take off and chew. That's a big expense. So actually looking ahead to plan some of those things and calculating, okay, so what's that actually going to cost? If I do want to retire before that 65, where I begin Medicare, what's that going to look at, that interim where I need health care coverage? What is that going to cost me? A lot of times that helps them determine the timing of when they actually can retire. Again, not just when they want to, but what's actually feasible. What's the reality of the financial situation? And you got to look at the healthcare piece when you're considering all this.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the big factors because as we consider nowadays the timing of a 25 or 30-year retirement, yes, we all look forward to those first 5 or 10 years of activity in the beginning, and then maybe we're going to have some slowdown. We're maybe a little bit more at home, but then we're going to have those higher expenses later down the road. So timing of 30 years of retirement, that's what might be very overwhelming. So let me ask you this, and I want to make sure I get this phrase right. I think it's a goal is just a dream until you write it down.
Yes.
If you don't pick a retirement date, do people just stumble into their retirements? I mean, don't you like the activity of actually sitting down, even if it's 5 years or 10 years or 6 months or 1 month, setting it down on paper saying, let's plan for it on this date. What kind of thing? Doesn't it start kind of a reaction?
Yeah, you got to set the goals. You absolutely have to set the goals. But it also has to be more than just writing it down. Writing it down
great starting
doesn't
point.
make it a reality, right? You've got to begin with that. Yes, you got to set the goal. Let's write it down, kind of make it official
Make
in
it
your
plain.
mind, right? But from there, you got to take some action behind it, because it's not just going to appear or just happen because you think it or write it, right? It's something that you got to really put some action behind. We talk a lot at our office about how knowledge plus action is what is really powerful.
That's right.
That's what produces change. That's what actually brings about the outcomes and the goals that you are working to achieve. But when you have the knowledge or the thinking about it, but you don't actually put action behind it, that's just going to leave you frustrated. That's going to leave you wishing and wanting for more. And when am I ever going to achieve that? Or I'm never going to be able to get there or do that. You can. You absolutely can. That is where we come into play. We want to link arms with you and help resource you to get to where you want to be, help you create that pathway to get to where you want to be. If you've written those goals down, you've written those dreams down, the picture of what you want that to look like, we begin with your end in mind. That's where you want to get to. We reverse engineer your financial plan to ensure you can actually get there. Not just that you dream it or you wish it or you hope for it, but no, you write it down, you make it plain, and then we come alongside you, link arms with you, and help you actually build a plan and put some action behind it, some movement, some forward motion, so that you actually reach those goals.
When it comes to retirement timing, I just want to point out that age isn't what matters the most. It's there again, as I said at the beginning of the program, age doesn't mean you're prepared. Your plan will mean you're prepared. And we help folks create those personalized plans so that they know when they can retire and how they're going to stay retired, right? So we have to plan well. You have to have all 5 components of the financial plan working for you, and really cash flow, your income, measures your readiness.
Those 5 elements help me. So we're talking income, investments, your tax strategy, estate planning, healthcare,
That's it.
Social Security.
That's right, income.
All of that together. If you want to get started on your own retirement readiness review, the timing of it is right now. Call the phone number down on the bottom of the screen, or you can scan this QR code right here. Open up your phone to the camera function, point it at this little box right here outside my book over here. Click on it, and you can schedule your own time right there. We're going to help you put together your own written financial plan for retirement. For Jay and Brittany Hagee, founders of Allon Planning Partners, thank you so much for watching today's program. We'll be back next week.